Oh, hi. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
It's like, oh, if you want to teach animation at a university, you need to have a grad school degree. Cool. Well, who taught the people who are teaching at grad school? Did they just go to school for animation, get a degree, go to the grad school, get a degree, and then start teaching? Cool. Where did they actually learn industry animation? That's why these online schools are so much better. Because most of the teachers at a lot of the schools don't know anything because they never did it. And then favor poses. Never just go like right between two poses and make a key as like, okay, 50%. Like always skew it. So if you're gonna put a key in between two frames, make sure that key, the value is closer to one or the other so that you either slow in or you either slow out or you slow in. What you do is you just take your 2019 folder or whatever version it is and you rename it to, I mean, you could delete it. I prefer to rename it to 2019-backup-alternate- whatever. I like to just make a new name for it. That way I don't delete the folder. And you do this when Maya's closed. And then when you open Maya again for the first time, it looks for this folder, and because you renamed it to 2019-something else, there is no longer a 2019 by itself. So it says, hey, we don't see any Maya preferences for you. Do you want to try and import what you had from the last version? Or do you want to just make a new one? And I just say, make a new one. It makes new preferences. It usually fixes almost everything wrong with the program, honestly. And then you're good for quite a while until something gets corrupted or messed up. So that right there will solve most of your problems in Maya. Swinging swords and axes and, you know, big like warhammer. You can tell by looking at the animation whether or not their video reference had a heavy object or not. And it's like, you're able to look through the animation into the video reference that it was taken from and to know what type of tools they used, which is why I say that when you're filming reference, you should use tools as similar to the shot as possible because it all translates through. If you just have me swing a sword like this, and then you put that in your animation and you copy that reference, you're going to have a very, very light seeming sword. Basically like a little dagger. You can't take this motion and add it to a double-handed sword, even if you just go, because it'll feel like a dagger. You need to have something heavy enough that your actor, your reference, is like struggling to carry the weight. The mechanics are so different that when you translate it to your animation, it shows. And you can tell that like, oh, that character doesn't have any weight behind that warhammer. Close, reopen. Because Maya doesn't close immediately, and then it tries to reopen and does a new copy. I closed it, I opened it, it came back up, I was like, no. Incredible. So yeah, opening Maya now is just like,
That's really odd. Okay, I fixed it. It looks like I fixed it. See, that was what I was diagnosing. I was looking to see why it wasn't like connecting to the node. That was fascinating. I've never had that happen before. So what happened was I clicked the object and tried to connect it to a mesh network, and the mesh network came into existence, but there's nothing in it. And I noticed that the cube itself wasn't connected to it. And so I went into the Mash repro node network where it usually shows you what geometry it's instancing. And by bringing it in, it then updates and says like, oh, it's working fine. But it always does that by default. That's a huge bug. I've got to report that one. Can someone clip that? Can somebody please clip as much of that as you're able to? I'm like in Maya or Blender. People get like, so I just want to put this out there so that everybody here who knows this. If I'm in a particular software on a particular day, it doesn't mean anything. I'm playing with that software. We're working in that tool. Like, you would never come up to like a contractor and be like, you're using a Phillips head screwdriver. You only use Phillips head screwdrivers. What do you have against flatheads? And if they were using like a hammer, you'd be like, why aren't you using a drill? What's wrong with you? Like, what do you have against drills? Like, the person probably has several tools in their belt, and they just happen to be using that one for the task at hand. It's like that for software. If you show up and I'm using Blender, it's because I wanted to use Blender. If you show up and I'm using Maya, it's because I wanted to use Maya. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't mean anything. You're going to show up in a couple weeks and I'll be using Houdini. Doesn't mean I'm dropping anything. Doesn't mean I'm like only using Houdini for something, or I don't know.
So is still behind. My torso is still facing more that way as opposed to this way, right? My head, however, is looking all the way. The head's not really leading the action though. The head is looking ahead, but the head's not driving anything. I'm just looking at my opponent and getting ready to swing. So there's a difference. The body, the hips, are leading the action of the torso, but the head is independent, and it's influenced by both of them. So you want to make sure it's connected, and like if you turn your body, your head's going to turn a little bit too, but it's not like the head is causing the rest of the motion. The head's just trying to focus on, what's in front of it. Which is different if like you're just going to turn really quick and you're surprised and you're like, whoa, or something, I don't know. Versus like, whoa, like there's different leading actions. But anyway, finally, the body is now a little bit more to the left. The torso has caught up to pretty much being almost dead on, straight on. 10 to 15% of your shot will still probably work in 3 times speed. And then when you go back to regular speed, it'll hit you like a ton of bricks. And you'll be like, oh my gosh, it's so slow. Or that action, like, ugh. And then you'll know what to fix. So save that for when you're close to done. Like, don't just do it like, I blocked out the first couple of, like, get your whole thing blocked out, or you're splining it, whatever it is you're doing, and speed it up. And chances are it could be sped up and still work.
Bye.